Hello, it's Straight Talk with Beth. I don't know what time it is because, let's see. Oh, I'm early. Okay, so we'll just sit here and see how things are going for people, see who joins us. Might be low turnout today because this is the first time, I'm going to fix this. It's the first time that we are going live from my results page, and I still don't quite have my setup down, as you can tell, but you know, hey. So hopefully everybody did the list from last week of be, do, and have. Oh, you know what? It's not time yet. I still have 1 minute. I'm going to go shut my door so when my daughter comes out of the bathroom, she's not talking to me. Okay. See, it really is live because I'm not coordinated. So, all right. Okay, so I'm so excited. So for those of you that found me on for Straight Talk today, you know I switched to my results page. This is because my business is results productivity coaching. And I do two things. One is I coach people in how to lose weight, have more energy and vitality, and increase their athletic performance. And then I also do life and business coaching, which that's what this is about. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. So I decided, my business coach suggested that I move my videos to my results page so that that will help sort of funnel people into the right place. So I'm very excited about doing this here today. So it's interesting because it's noon now, so that's great. So it's interesting because I'm talking today about the be, do, have list that you guys did last week. So I don't know how many of you did that, but I had, I'm going to write it out again, but I did an activity with you and encouraged you to do this, to do what I call dream storming, and to do a list, obviously on a bigger piece of paper than this, of all the things in your life that you want to be, do, and have. So all the things that you want to be, all the things that you want to do, and all the things that you'd like to have. And just like a dream. Like, what do you dream about? What are the things that you want in life? What are the things that you'd like to have that you don't currently have? What are the things that you'd like to do that you don't currently do? And to take that on and just do a dream storming list. Because one of the things that's really interesting that I have found after coaching hundreds, maybe even thousands of people in courses, is that when we get to a certain age, we stop dreaming. Probably, depending on your life circumstances, it's in your late 20s, early 30s. Hi, Kat. It's good to see you. But we stop dreaming about things. We stop dreaming about things that we want to do. We have had losses in our life, huge obstacles. We've been beaten down in lots of ways, and we don't have the ability or the passion to dream like we used to when we were kids. I remember one of the funniest things is my daughter Anna. She's going to be a senior in high school this year. When she was about 5 years old, I said, "Hey, Anna, so what do you think you want to be when you grow up?" Actually, she must have been younger than that. She must have been about 3 or 4. "What do you want to be when you grow up, honey?" And she looked right at me with all seriousness and said, either a dog or a unicorn. And I laughed so hard because she was serious, like she was going to college to learn how to be a unicorn. And, you know, she kind of is a unicorn in human form, so that worked out for her so far. But it's just so funny because when you're a kid, anything is possible. Now, obviously, you can't be a dog or a unicorn. However, it points to the kind of piece about how, as adults, we start looking at, well, what can I do to make the most money? What can I do to support my family? What can I do to make sure I can get by in life? And we slowly move from a place of possibility over here to just systematically moving to a place of survival in our lives. And for those of you that saw a couple weeks ago, I did a video on below the line and above the line. Survival is below the line. It's a place where we don't thrive. It's a place where we get by, we suffer, we aren't fulfilled and joyous in our lives. And I am absolutely against anyone living life below the line, as you know. So anyway, so I hope that you guys did that be, do, have list. If you haven't, do it this week. One of the things that we're going to talk, so what we're going to talk about today is, one of the things that is a problem for us is that we stop dreaming. And so when we stop dreaming, a lot of times it's because we are in survival. The other reason is because we're afraid and we have fear and we're afraid to fail. We're afraid to look stupid. We're afraid what happens if I start this business, but it doesn't turn out? What happens if I, take on something and, I just don't do well? Or what happens if I try something new and I tell everybody about it and then I don't do well on that? And so I think that the fear of failure is almost as big as the survival mexican. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because it was so funny. Last night we got Chinese food because I was working really hard and I was like, we're going to make a good, healthy, yummy dinner. And I said, you know what? I just do not have time to do that. Let's pick something that's healthy from Chinese, as healthy as we can get, that's not fried, battered, whatever. Let's just do that so that I don't have to cook because I'm on a roll and I just need to work in my office. So we got Chinese food last night and this was my fortune. Okay. I know you can't read it, but I wrote it bigger so I could read it because my eyes are terrible. Perceived failure is oftentimes success trying to be born in a bigger way. Oh my gosh. That is like the most freaking brilliant fortune I've ever had in my life. Let me read it to you one more time, and I'll print it below in the comments. Perceived failure is oftentimes success trying to be born in a bigger way. Can you imagine what our lives would be like if we actually looked at failure like that? That, failure, it's not that big of a deal. It's just success being trying to be born in a bigger way. So it didn't work this time, but let's try it again so it can birth itself bigger. I just think we would have so much freedom in our lives if we could live like that. So the three things. So today, what I said, 3 things that you can do today that will help you be happy, right? So the first thing is prioritize. Now, in order to prioritize, you have to go back to that be, do, have list. You have to look at what is important to you. For me, my family is so important to me. For me, my faith in God is important to me. The other things that are important to me is my job, my health, and those are all high priorities. So anytime I'm looking at how I'm going to design my life, I'm clear that it has to fit into those priorities. I have a big commitment right now that I'm looking at moving away from because it's taking up time from things that are a bigger priority for me. And sometimes I feel like it's sucking the life out of me. And so I'm reevaluating those priorities right now. And it's not like, your priorities are always the same. They're not always the same solid 3 to 6 things. Oftentimes they change as your kids get older and move out. It's not that they aren't a priority, but spending time with them and kind of having family dinners, those kinds of things tend to move down lower on the priority list because it might just be you and your spouse or just you by yourself. So your priorities shift as time goes on. So it really is important that every single quarter you adjust your priorities. And your priorities can't be based on survival. So we talked about, survival and fear of failure. So you can't base your priorities on either of those things. They have to be based on dreams. That's why that be, do, have exercise is so important. So the first thing that I'm going to tell you that you can stop and do today that will make you happier, like literally by the end of the day, is to stop, spend 15 minutes looking at what your priorities are. Literally make a list. What are the things that are most important to you? Then number them 1 from whatever. I'm talking about the top 5. So you look at the top 5, and if those top 5 don't match what your schedule looks like where you're actually investing your time, dump crap. Get rid of it. Ditch it. If it's not your priority, then you need to ditch it. It's not something that you need to be doing. And you need to learn to say no to things that are not on your priority list. That's the first thing. Second thing, slow down. You know what? this is the thing that drives me crazy, and I do it, I get sucked into it all the time, is we need to slow down in our lives. I grew up where we used to play outside. You know, I'm almost 50. We used to play in a creek and woods behind our house. We would literally get up in the morning, go out and do stuff, and we would maybe go to a friend's house for lunch. My mom never knew where we were. She knew an idea. We were in the neighborhood somewhere. And then we'd come home from dinner, and we literally had a dinner bell that we'd listen for around 5 o'clock when it's like, it started to be dinner time. We knew it was time to come home. We'd come home and have a family dinner. We'd be outside. We'd be with our friends. And it was a great way to grow up. We didn't have cell phones. My mom wasn't texting me, wondering where I was. I didn't have to check in all the time. Now, I know this is a different world today, but it's not that different. What's really different? Hi, Julie. Glad you could join me. She watches a ton of babies, so she's probably feeding a baby right now in Iowa. So anyway, the second thing you can do is slow down. Start looking at how can you take more time for those priorities, but stop being busy. We think all the time that the busier we are, the more important we are, the more productive we are. Let me tell you right now, that is such freaking bullshit. Busy does not equal productive. I'll tell you what, I have had some of the busiest weeks of my life be the least productive. And it's like, you got to think of it like being a hamster on a wheel. He's running as hard as he can, but he is not getting anywhere. He's staying in the same place. So sometimes what we need to do, I'm going to say probably 99.9% of the time, is, oh, that's so great. It is good stuff, Heather. I'm glad that people are talking about this. You have to slow down. If you are not slowing down, then you cannot focus on the big future that's in front of you, the things you want to create, or the priorities. Because what happens when you're moving so fast is you lose focus on what's in front of you, and you start being, again, what happens is you slip into that survival mode, because all this stuff in your life is on fire, and you're like putting out a fire here, putting out a fire there, putting out a fire here. And so you end up being someone who's being at effect rather than at cause. And that is not the way results get produced. So slow down is number 2. So the third thing is really going back to this thing about fear, being the fear of failure. People don't do things on that be-do-have list. If you did that be-do-have list, take a look at it. I'll bet you more than half of the things on that list are because you've been afraid. Like, I don't know how I'd get the money. I'm afraid of doing it. I'm not the kind of person that travels like that, even though I really want to. I don't know how I'd find another job. How do I even find another job? I'm just afraid of putting myself out there. So if you look at that be-do-have list, half of that stuff is going to be because of you haven't done it or accomplished it, probably because of fear. Now, the other half is probably you haven't done it because you don't really know how to do it yet. And we'll talk about that later, but I want to talk about that first half. It's fear. Fear is holding you back. Sometimes even fear of success. Now, that's a very cliche thing to say. Oh, well, my life coach told me that I'm afraid of success. That's kind of crap. I mean, I think that people are afraid of success in that they don't always think they're worthy of it. But I think nobody's afraid of making $1 million. Mostly they're afraid of putting themselves out there in a way that they could actually produce that kind of results. They're afraid of actually being vulnerable and having conversations with people and sharing their dreams and being smirked at and laughed at and people going, well, she's nuts. That's what people are afraid of. It's not the success they're afraid of. It's the road to getting to success and what it takes for you to get that and be that. That's what they're really afraid of. So fear is the third thing that I want to talk about. So fear exists only in your mind. Only in your mind. Show me fear. There is no fear in the world. There is no fear like, this is one of my favorite things. This is an easy button. I love this thing. Some of you remember it.
That was easy.
Oh, see, his voice sounds different. That was easy. So fear doesn't exist in the world like this. This is something that you can see, feel, touch, hear, even, push.
That was easy.
All sorts of things. Show me fear. There is no fear. It's a feeling. It's something in yourself that is an alarm goes off and you feel fear. Well, you know what? If you really look at it, fear and excitement are exactly the same feeling. The only difference is how you interpret it. So I'm going to challenge you to ditch fear, right? I'm saying ditch things that aren't important to you, ditch things that suck your time, that aren't your priorities, ditch fear. That's a third thing you can do, is not let fear choose for you in your life. Because fear chooses 75% of the choices that we make in a day. So if you can start looking at and distinguishing, like the first step to all three of these things is just noticing, right? You can't possibly change your life unless you're awake. You have to be awake in your life. And so the only way to start changing the choices you make is to notice when fear is ruling. Right? So when fear is choosing for you, it's not an authentic choice, because fear is a useless emotion. Now, I'm not talking about somebody that I don't even know, somebody that, let's say, a police officer or a fireman, someone where your life is at stake, some kind of job like that. Fear may be a good thing to have, because fear might have you second guess whether to run into that burning house, or whether it's smart to do, some sort of, military action or whatever. So you get the idea. So fear, hi Lori, thanks for joining us. So fear is useful for those people, but for us, in middle America, doing our lives, doing our jobs, fear of change, fear of doing something new, fear of putting yourself out there, fear of what people are going to think of you. None of those fears are rational. None of those fears are necessary, because fear exists only in your mind. So what I want to do is, because I'm right at 15 minutes now, so what I want to do this week is I want you to do, if you haven't done that be, do, have list. Oh, where did I just put it? I put it here. Be, do, have list. If you haven't done that from last week, watch last week's video. I told you how to do that. Do that be, do, have list. This week I want you to pick one goal off that be, do, have list. Something that you've been dreaming about being, doing, or having. And then I want you to set a by when date. So, and pick something that is doable in the next 90 days, okay? Something that's doable in the next 90 days. Pick one thing, set a due date for it, and then plan. Look at your calendar. Plan backwards. How are you going to make it happen? Okay? I'd love for you to share that with me in the comments, what you're taking on. What's the be, do, have thing that you want to be, do, or have? What are you going to do to make that happen for the next 90 days? And then next week, we're going to talk about failing forward. What do you do when you fail? What do you do, when things aren't working out? And that whole quote again about perceived failure is oftentimes success, trying to be born in a bigger way. So that's your homework this week. Thanks so much for all the personal private messages you've been sending. It's very encouraging. I appreciate it. And if you have not gotten a chance to opt in for my free 7-day intensive, I'm loading that in next week. It's going to go live the Tuesday after Labor Day, and you don't want to miss it. 7 days, free coaching. It's a free intensive of how to begin to build the best version of yourself. It's going to be amazing, and I'm really, really excited about it. So again, go to produceamazingresults.com and opt in for that free course, and you guys make sure you make it an amazing day. Have a good one.